Alright, let's talk about PvE Tarkov. First, I'm going to discuss a few general things about the mode itself, and then I will start talking about the actual gameplay. First of all, I think it should be free for everyone who owns any edition of Escape from Tarkov. Whether you paid $40 for the standard edition or you spent the $250 for Unheard, I think you should have access to this for a couple of reasons. One, it is an excellent set of training wheels for new players. Yes, I'm aware that PvP Tarkov has offline raids. However, offline raids do not teach progression, and they do not teach quests, both of which are very important things for players to understand in order to get good at Tarkov. It also makes it possible for experienced players to teach their new friends the basic mechanics in a more predictable environment where they don't have to worry about a 5,000-hour turbo sweat coming through and utterly destroying them. This makes the obscene learning curve that Tarkov has a bit more bearable for newer players, whereas if they just try to thug it out in online Tarkov, they're probably gonna get their asses whooped every 10 seconds. Because of this, many people choose to leave the game before they have an understanding or appreciation for it. For the sake of the longevity of PvP mode and just Tarkov itself, I think that PvE being available for anyone who owns Tarkov is the way to go. I'm aware that BSG still wants to make money off of it, therefore I think they should implement the monetization practices that I discussed 2 weeks ago. The second thing I want to go over is I have seen many comments discussing how PvE mode is for people who have a skill issue or just aren't good at regular Escape from Tarkov. First of all, if you think like that, I want to introduce you to something called SOAP. Trust me, it's pretty cool. I highly recommend you use it. Second, yes, obviously that's the entire point of PvE mode. It's for people who want to work with Tarkov's in-depth mechanics without needing to do a college course's level of research on it. It's meant for people who don't have hours and hours a day to grind regular Tarkov. If you worked a 14-hour shift at the ball crushing factory, this is the best way for you to experience Tarkov. Because of this, my friend group calls it Blue Collar Tarkov. Next, I want to talk about queue times. Most of the time, it's pretty good. I would say average for myself when I am queuing solo is around 2 minutes. If I'm playing with friends, it tends to be around 3, and sometimes it will stretch to 5. And very, very rarely you get, well, what the fuck? But most of the time, it's pretty good. Then there's the obvious, why wouldn't I just play SPT? That is an excellent question. That is another reason that I think that PvE mode should be available for everyone, because SPT just kind of exists. The only real advantage that PvE mode has over SPT is that it has the ability to play with friends in a co-op mode, which SPT I don't believe has, and I know that the main devs behind it are not at all interested in exploring, since that's where it gets very questionable in terms of legality. If you are just trying to play solo though, SPT in many ways is a very attractive option, which is why I think BSG needs to make it free for everybody and then try to find a different way to make money off of it. Next, let's talk about the actual gameplay of PvE, and we're going to start with questing. Questing is obviously easier since there is no competition for quest locations. The Pocket Watch truck isn't a bloodbath that looks like the beaches of Normandy anymore, thank God. Overall, this makes Tarkov's somewhat abysmal quest design decently bearable. The shortened raid timer, I'm not a fan of. There was an issue with the train extracts not being adjusted, so they would leave too late and the raid would end before you could actually extract on them. I'm not sure if that's been fixed yet, but I think that's just really freaking funny. But the main issue I have with the shortened raid timers is it doesn't feel like you have enough time to loot that often. It feels like you kind of have to just kill something, loot very quickly, and just move on. You don't have time to really open up every single container. It's a huge problem I've noticed, especially with filing cabinets, is it really doesn't feel like you have enough time to hit them before you gotta start hauling ass to the extract. So you can either loot things or you can move slow and methodical. But if you choose to loot things, you're gonna have to run, and if you move slow and methodically, you don't have time to loot anything. It's not a huge problem on maps like Customs, but you start to notice the issue on maps like Woods and Shoreline. Now we're going to talk about the AI. This is probably one of the make or break parts of PvE mode, since obviously this is the only enemy type you're going to encounter. And First off, AI PMCs, they're pretty much just raiders with PMC clothing. They have a bunch of different gear sets, so killing and looting them doesn't feel nearly as repetitive as killing raiders can. That being said, the difficulty of the AI varies wildly. I think the best example is this raid I had on Factory, where the first few PMCs I encountered were pretty damn tough. If I peeked them for more than 3 seconds, they started to deal quite a bit of damage to me. It was actually a very thrilling and somewhat intense gunfight. So fighting these AI was actually pretty scary until I got to the very last one, who decided that healing 5 feet away from me was a brilliant idea. Like I said, varies wildly. I wouldn't say it's on a spectrum. They're either terrifying or just stupid. I don't have any evidence to back this up. It's just kind of something I noticed, but it doesn't seem like the AI PMC difficulty depends on their level. I think that their dog tags just have random levels for the sake of quests as well as barters. I think their difficulty scales with your level. When I was level 19, I had a 159 kill death ratio and a 100% survival rate. I had not been killed once. And then I hit level 20 and I instantly got murdered 4 times in a row. This was the first raid after I hit level 20. I spawn in, I start to run to Big Red, and I am instantly aimbotted into oblivion. He used 3 rounds of M856A1 and they all managed to hit my upper chest, completely missing the tier 6 plate I had. Lee Harvey Oswald is back and they gave him an assault rifle. The PMCs do have areas where they tend to hang out, however they do seem to wander a bit, which makes them somewhat unpredictable. On maps like Customs, they're very predictable. They hang out at the fortress, they hang out in dorms, and they hang out at the RUAF roadblock. Before level 20, you can run across the land bridge straight at RUAF. After you hit level 20, I highly recommend against that. On Shoreline, again, they'll hang out in the cottages, they'll be outside the front of the resort. I think they can be on the pier as well. But then there's Woods, and on Woods, they can be in the sawmill, and sometimes they'll hang out around ZB14, but because of how much they wander, I don't freaking know where the hell they are half the time, so be careful of that. If you are playing on Woods or just in the open, never stray too far away from cover because, again, remember, this is BSG AI we're talking about. You will get 3 warning shots where they either miss or hit your arms or legs, and after that, they are dialed in and will hit your chest and head every single time. It's terrifying. Don't ever wander far from cover. Also remember, because it is AI that is developed by Battlestate, it isn't gonna work all the time. I'm pretty sure that PMCs are supposed to kill scavs. They do it pretty often, but sometimes they just choose not to. They adopt a little scav buddy. I don't know. One of my favorite instances is I was running around on Factory and I decide to round this corner, and what do I see but a Busek, a bear, and Tagilla himself all hanging out just to kill me. You know, I'm so glad that I was able to bring together so many people with so many differences just because they all wanted to kill me specifically. It's kind of beautiful. It really just shows how mutual hatred brings people together. In summary, the PMC AI is either completely just brain dead or terrifying, and that unpredictability does make them fairly interesting to fight. One of the biggest fears I had for PvE mode was that the PMCs would be boring to fight, and they certainly aren't as, engaging, thrilling, or terrifying as fighting other players, but they definitely aren't boring. If you are careless, you will get overwhelmed very quickly and will die. Therefore, it's still a decently thrilling experience. Moving on to just plain old scavs, bosses and guards seem to have a much higher spawn rate and are still decently terrifying to fight. Sanitar will still unlock the knowledge of the universe to try to shoot you through a wall. Regular scavs are back on their usual bullshit. They seem to be overtuned in order to try to make PvE mode a bit harder. That being said, it's ridiculous that they're able to see you through every tree branch and leaf on Woods and will try to shoot you through it. Again, they tend to miss their first few shots, but it's still freaking stupid. The worst part about regular scavs in PvE mode, though, is that there are so damn many of them. Like, seriously. They're coming out of the woodwork, they're coming out of the floorboard, they are just materializing into existence specifically to cause you pain. Seriously, if you shoot a single scav Congratulations, you are now going to have to kill 15 more before you are able to leave the area. In standard PvP Tarkov, I bring 2 stacks of spare ammo. In PvE mode, I bring 4 stacks of spare ammo, and sometimes it still isn't enough. It makes scav kill quests really easy, but there is an indescribable pain when you have just killed 9 scavs and you hear another one voice line behind you. There are too many scavs. Why are there so many? It's like, damn, am I playing a tactical shooter or COD Zombies? For the love of God. Now let's ask the big question. How does PvE mode compare to regular standard PvP Tarkov? Exactly as you'd expect it would. It's lower highs and higher lows. You're not going to experience that same insane adrenaline rush when you, I don't know, kill a 3-man squad all on your own and you feel like you are the greatest FPS player to ever have lived. But you're also not going to feel like you just got suplexed by a freight train when you get murdered 5 raids in a row without ever seeing anybody. That being said, PvE still has those thrilling, oh shit moments that make Tarkov so addictive. For example, when Mr. Bird Eye himself just materialized behind me in dorms. It's less punishing, but carelessness will still get you killed, and I have had to crawl my way back from the brink of death more times than I can count. What makes PvE mode different is that you survive those oh shit moments more often, whereas in regular Tarkov, any slip up, any mistake is often it. For example, right here, I accidentally sprinted straight into a group of PMCs on Factory. Now, obviously if those were real players, I'd be dead in 2 seconds. There's nothing I can do to survive that. But because it's their AI, they take time to react, I was able to slip away and was actually able to have a decent fight with them. In summary, PvE is for when you want to play Tarkov but don't feel like completely stressing out and hating yourself by the end of the night. Otherwise, it's still the same good old Tarkov. Bugs are still a thing, but they're a lot funnier now since they don't directly lead to your death 90% of the time. Doors still don't work on raiders, and desync still exists. Wow. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the PvE mode of Escape from Tarkov. I don't think I'm gonna grind it super hard solely because I don't really need to. It's my understanding that it never wipes, so being able to take it at your own pace is honestly fantastic. It makes Tarkov less of a job and more of a game. Otherwise, just thank you so much for watching this video. I'm going to start branching out and playing other games. They're obviously going to come at a much less consistent rate than my Tarkov content. I'm still deciding on whether or not I'm going to upload them to this channel or if I'm going to upload them to a second channel. If I do choose to upload them to this channel, I'll probably upload them on like Wednesday, and hopefully it won't interrupt the regular Tarkov upload schedule, but I'm still figuring it out. I do know that the first video I want to make is going to be on Stalker Gamma, and the second one I'm going to make is going to be on Baldur's Gate, which is one of my favorite games right now, so be on the lookout for that. Otherwise, just again, thank you so much for listening to the ramblings of a madman, especially all the way to the end, and I really hope you enjoyed.